views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Starting now, Becoming a Sun Radio Emotional and Spiritual Intelligence for a Happy, Fulfilling Life with visionary leader David Karchere. This hit show is a guide to the human journey, individually and collectively. David believes that humanity is evolving to become a conscious expression of the creative power within us. And each show reveals how to activate this creative expression to the fullest. Stay tuned because this is all happening right now.
Hey everyone, welcome to Becoming a Sun Radio. With me, I'm Dr. Pat and David Karchere. This is emotional and spiritual intelligence for a happy, fulfilling life. You know, today David and I are taking on the conversation of, the fusion of fulfilling mission and the rays of enlightened thought. This is, I think, one of the most important messages of our time. Today, for many of you, you may know who David is, but let me just tell you a little bit about him. As the host of Becoming a Sun Radio, this is one aspect of the amazing work he is doing in the world. Author, speaker, poet, workshop leader, and one of the world's foremost thought leaders, and someone that has been in the world talking about primal spirituality. This is a conversation that each of us gets to tap into when we think about how he is leading the conversation about spiritual awakening, about personal transformation, how he is doing that all over the globe and doing it in ways that people are now joining in on the conversation and building a community of becoming a sun. It's also David's first book name, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But as the spiritual director at Sunrise Ranch, we all get to participate in teaching. We all get to participating and stepping in to that next level of our lives, that next level of awakening. So therefore, that next level of awareness. David, thank you for today. What a great topic, the fusion of fulfillment mission or fulfilling mission and the rays of enlightened thought. How exciting is that?
It is exciting, Pat. This is just great. I'm so happy to share these two topics that are from my book. So they are two of the chapters of my book, but also more than that, just such compelling aspects of what it means to really live, to really be alive.
Mm-hmm. I love the word fusion, and I love the way you're using this, the fusion of fulfilling mission. Now, many people have heard about, mission. Yeah, I got a passion. I got a purpose. I think I do. I may or may not know, but this is really talking about something that when you think about it, there's like this igniting of something here. Tell us about this. Tell us about what this has come to mean for you.
Yes, I'd be glad to. And I want to bring in something that's not even in the book.
Okay.
But it is very relevant to becoming a sun and to fusion. So it turns out that fusion actually happens right at the core of the sun. And because of the tremendous mass of the sun and the tremendous gravity and the density at the core of the sun, molecules are attracted into the core. And it's there where the fusion happens. So what happens is that the normal resistance to fusion that there is broken down so that there really can be fusion. And then through that is the release of this powerful radiance that we know as the sun. So I see that as a remarkable parallel for what happens in our own human experience. And there's a place inside where we fuse with the fire that's at our core. But we've got to go to that place. We've got to find it in ourselves and then in each other if we're to know fusion and overcome the resistance and friction that is so often at work between us as human beings, and then even inside us as a human being.
Yeah. And, let's talk about the ways that this friction does show up, because for many people, they might be thinking, friction, I'm not so sure about that. Well, let me tell you how the friction shows up or has shown up for me in the past before. And maybe you can talk about it. Two of the ways that I've noticed in my life when I literally get derailed in it, whether it's emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally, it doesn't matter, is when I allow doubt and fear to enter into my consciousness. Now, I'm not saying that I don't get afraid, or I'm not saying I don't doubt things. But when I give it enough power that it literally takes on a life of its own, I'm kind of in trouble about my calling. Can you talk about that a little bit? And if that's not what you meant by friction, please tell me what you do. I just related to that right out of the gate.
Well, right. So those are certainly elements of the friction and resistance that we end up knowing as human beings. So, without an experience of the fire of fusion and the calling that calls us to our mission that we find at the core of our being, then what we're left with is a world of doubt. And there's nothing to address the doubt. It's just doubt and it's just fear. Because the positive element that would overcome that doubt and that fear isn't in the picture. So what I say is, the real question is, how do we get more of that? How do we get more of that power within us that allows us to hold the doubts and the fears that come up and the resistance that comes up, and then the friction that's between us as human beings, that allows us to hold all that in forward-going movement that is aligned with bringing the happiness and fulfillment of our life?
Yeah. When we were talking about this, and maybe, let's just back up a little bit. I want to get back to, the title of your book, Becoming, and I think this is so important, Becoming a Sun, S-U-N, sun, becoming a sun. That idea and the radiance and, almost the electricity of vibrancy that we get from that, the source of our livelihood here is so important. Can you talk about that idea and how it emerges in your book?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So the basic premise is that we are already a sun on the inside. And that's literally true in the sense that we have nuclear power in our bodies, even physically. The atoms of our body carry tremendous power, even at an atomic level. And that power is constellating within us, looking to find expression through us as a human being. So the premise of the book is that we're already a sun on the inside, with a fire on the inside that's moving us through our life. But our life journey is to become a clear and accurate expression of that fire on the outside as a human being. And the first part of this is a given. In other words, we already have that kind of nuclear power inside us. We already have a fire that's obviously powering us through our lives. That's a given. But we have to participate consciously in letting it constellate in our awareness and in our expression and in our becoming as a human being. And if we do, we become a living embodiment of that fire and the light that's within us. And in human terms, that means we become a living expression, an embodiment of love, and an embodiment of light in the world in which we live, in a very practical and then down to earth way, so that we have that to share with other people, and we very literally have the power of creation moving through us.
What I wanted to say is that right now, we're in a world right now that is calling forth, I believe, the best in each of us, David. And I really do believe that. I think that many of us are coming forth and we're looking at whether or not we are sure about our calling, whether or not we are sure that we are on track, unwavering to discover our mission or purpose in life. And, sometimes that must change, sometimes not. And I want to talk with you about what it is about this sun within that will be relentless if we shy away from that calling. I know for me, it took shape in my physical body giving way. Love to hear from you when we come back about what does this mean, and the sacred veil and the cross of life, how do they help us? How do they remind us of the calling? Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Transformation Talk Radio is dedicated to the education and awareness of Lyme disease.
Welcome to Lyme Talk Radio. I'm Dr. Pat Basile, the host of the Dr. Pat Show, and I am so thrilled that we've created this venue for all of you out there.
Dr. Pat Basile will be bringing the most innovative, groundbreaking information, research, treatment innovations, and stories from those it affects every day.
What we have heard is that you want to ensure for us that we keep positive, holistic, uplifting, transformative talk radio on the air. We're excited to bring you the contemporary conversations about Lyme disease.
We promise not to let the light fade on Lyme.
So fasten your seatbelts. We've got lots more to share with you in the weeks to come.
Tune into Lyme Talk Radio with Dr. Pat and help keep our mission strong on transformationtalkradio.com.
Are you ready to start winning at the game of life? Lynn Brown, host of Get Into It, Winning at the Game of Life, is here to help you reach places and goals that you never thought possible. Lynn is an intuitive healer with a specialized background in financial healing. She combines her intuitive nature and her wholesome approach to financial planning. To learn more about her financial planning services, contact her personally at intuit.com.
Introducing the Lucid Planet, a digital gathering place featuring cutting-edge, high-vibrational content that will empower and inspire you to become the greatest version of yourself. Visit the Lucid Planet today to stimulate your mind, body, and soul as you connect with a global community of like-minded people. The Lucid Planet is edited by renowned psychologist and author Dr. Kelly Neff, who is here to help you cope with anxiety, connect to your higher purpose, uncover your true passions, and live your dreams. Dr. Kelly's fresh, compassionate perspective emphasizes growth, transformation, healing, and thriving. Even in the face of adversity, say goodbye to bad news and low vibrational media for good and become part of the larger collective of people working together to navigate the global shift of consciousness and transform the world from within. Join the planet, the Lucid Planet. Visit thelucidplanet.com. Welcome home.
Hey listeners, would you love to have the most imaginable relationships ever? David Karchere has just finished his breakthrough book, The 7 Spiritual Strategies for Fulfilling Relationships, and he is giving you a copy. Learn to move any important relationship in your life forward like never before. Visit davidkarchere.com/blessing or transformationtalkradio.com to receive this incredible gift. Once again, that's davidkarchere.com/blessing.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back to, first of all, welcome back to this amazing conversation. Becoming a Sun Radio. Today, we're talking about the fusion of fulfilling mission and the rays of enlightened thought. David Karchere joining me here. And for those of you that want to find out more about David, go ahead and go to his website, davidkarchere.com, which is KARCHERE.com. Lots of information there, and we have a special giveaway for everyone today. We're talking, David, we were talking about the fusion of fulfilling mission, but, now we're talking about the calling, what the calling is, what does it mean? And, you were talking with me during a break about this, and, clearly sometimes I've heard, the universe talking to me, but I can't say that I always have. What are your thoughts on that?
The universe around us is not just energy and matter as we tend to think of it, but it is truly alive in all its dimensions. And so that means that there is an incredible depth of being, not only in ourselves, but in all the people around us. And then beyond the immediate range of our perception of physical reality. And of course, that's been named God and all kinds of things. But whatever you call it, we live in a sentient universe. And that universe is speaking to us all the time and is asking for us to show up and give our gift. Now, I have a daughter, and I remember when she was first born, I remember like just committing my life to her. And sometimes that happens in a very special way with a loved one. But actually, it's not just those special people who need us. Whether or not they can say it or not, or articulate it to us, all the people that we meet are needing us, are calling for us, are desiring us to show up. And in fact, all of the universe is asking us to show up as ourselves, for us to be the sun that we are and give our gift. And we tend to think that we're alienated and alone, but I'm here to say, no, that's not really true. And we each have an opportunity to speak for the larger universe to each other and tell each other, you are needed, you are desired, you are wanted by reality. And your presence is needed here. And if we look at the world around us, whether it's our own immediate world or the world at large, this world surely needs something. And I say what it needs is people who are becoming a sun, who are bringing the light that they have to shed on our world situation, and who are bringing the fire of love that they are, which is an unconditional force. It is a scientific reality that's looking to constellate in a human way through our own life experience.
Yeah. When we were talking before, here's what I am really struck by. I don't know if this is true for you, but I will tell you, I was just doing a show earlier today, David, and I was talking with someone where I said, maybe you can help people listening. Maybe you can help with this. I was telling them that 14 years ago, I'm sorry, boy, I'm getting up there in what I'm doing here on this radio gig here. 14 years ago, David, if you'd have said to me, Pat, you're going to be launching a radio show, number one, you're going to be featuring people like the amazing David Karchere. You're going to be talking about incredible things, transforming lives, helping people. I would have looked at you and said, I think you probably need therapy. Mm-hmm. And, the reason I'm bringing it up is somehow I got tapped on a shoulder and I dialed the wrong phone number and I bought my first hour of airtime. I had to explain to the people in my life, the next 6 years of my life, I tried to make it logical. There was no logic. I would love for you to talk did I get signs? Were there things that were showing up in my life that helped me know in that moment to say yes?
Oh, that's such a great question, Pat. Uh, so I wouldn't be on the path I'm on if I didn't get hugely inspired at points in my life. It's like the heavens cracked open, and I got in touch with a reality that was so transcendent of the experience I'd had to date, and I felt this profound love fill my heart, and I just committed myself to know that more fully and to, as much as I could, to express that and embody it in my life. But then on the other hand, I've had times in my life where it looked impossible. I mean, here at Sunrise Ranch, where I lead a project that involves about 100 people right here at the ranch, there have been times when it just looked like we were going to die, like it just wasn't going to happen. And it was just, it felt like I was just putting one foot in front of the other. But to whatever degree, I kept on expressing with as much integrity as I could pull together. I kept expressing that profound love that I'd touched, and what I sensed had tremendous meaning and possibility. I just didn't give up. I just kept doing it. And I followed the calling that had come to me and that I was still in touch with, even though there were points where I had no idea how it was all going to work out. And yet today, what's happening at Sunrise Ranch, I cannot believe how creative it is. There are all these projects. We're working on the planetary mission with Barbara Marx Hubbard. We are just totally redeveloping our sustainable agriculture. We have greenhouses full of ripe tomatoes in the middle of winter. I mean, there are just all these fabulous things happening. And it's only because there were a few of us who knew that we were becoming a sun. So we as individuals, and then us together, we just knew that something magical was happening. And we believed in that more than we believed in all the signs, apparently, that were coming to us that it wasn't going to work. So we just kept going, and it worked. And I think that's how life is.
Yeah. And, here we are with talking about so many different things that have to do with what we get to say yes to in this life. And, you and I, I've shared my story here recently. Certainly you are. And now you're the author of an incredible book. But the work you're doing in the world to help people tap in to this radiance, right? That sun within. This is the place that people are really getting excited about now. I think we have always known, David, right, that there's something inside of us that's waiting to come out. Now, you have apparently been tapped on the shoulder to help us with this, but there are also the ancients that depicted things as well. Yep. I mean, who doesn't really know the ancient symbol Ra, the sun god? It's in all of the blockbuster movies, even if people don't know what it is. But There are some other things like the cross of life. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I'd love to. So we have this symbol of the cross so often identified with Christianity and with crucifixion. And indeed, crucifixion was a horrible form of execution that was utilized by the Romans. So yes, that's true. But long before the story of Jesus, there were crosses throughout the world. And in my book, I show ancient crosses from literally just across the globe, from all cultures. And there's a wonderful book that I reference that speaks about early man. And the author pictured man in a cave and trying to express what his spiritual experience was like, what was happening spiritually. And the earliest symbol this author surmised was simply a horizontal line and then a vertical line coming through it. And the horizontal line would be our humanity. So it's us as a physical human being, as a human being with a mind and a heart and a body. And then the vertical line represents how we're shot full of cosmic energy in this amazing way. Like we're alive. We're alive. And it's so easy to forget the magic and the miracle of life that, we tend to think of it as, it was given to us when we were born. But really, it's being given to us in every single moment. We're getting shot through with cosmic energy, atomic energy, constellating through us as a human being. And so the cross is portraying that. And it's such a powerful symbol. If you think of it as a living cross, not just a cross of crucifixion, it comes alive. And so, I think of the Titanic and the star of the movie being there on the prow of the Titanic with arms extended, and in really the form of a living cross. And so what does he say? I'm the king of the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, what that means is not only is that a sense of confidence, not only is that looking at where people are and where they can go in life, but it's a powerful, powerful statement and affirmation of what we do and how that's possible in the world. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what the rays of enlightened thought. What do we want to know about that? What do we want to know about our spiritual and mental capacities, and how that is or might be for you the fire and air creative forces? What would you like to ignite in thought that will get you from where you are today for where you are meant to go? Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Tune in to the hit show Mouthing Off with Chef Rossi. Chef Rossi mouths off about different subjects in pursuit of breaking down walls and opening up your minds. She and Dr. Pat banter back and forth, taking from the headlines of the day on subjects that reach beyond what goes on in the world into your hearts. And go to theragingskillet.com to find out more and let Chef Rossi know what's on your mind.
Listen while you work. Streaming live on any device. Tune in to the Transformation Radio Network. Visit transformationradio.fm.
Hey listeners, would you love to have the most imaginable relationships ever? David Karchere has just finished his breakthrough book, The 7 Spiritual Strategies for Fulfilling Relationships, and he is giving you a copy. Learn to move any important relationship in your life forward like never before. Visit davidkarchere.com/blessing or transformationtalkradio.com to receive this incredible gift. Once again, that's davidkarchere.com/blessing.
The Earth is an ever-changing being. Goddess Light Shamanic Healer Bree Gibbs guides us through the ascending worlds, bringing forth knowledge and truth. As a light creator, she is here to provide new information needed at this time in our evolution. Join Bree as she shares messages from guides, spirits, ascended masters, goddesses, and others. Tune in the second and fourth Monday, 11 a.m. Pacific, and Thursdays, 1 p.m. Pacific for Silver Gaia Radio.
Do you keep attracting the same type of guy over and over? Do you believe all of the good guys are taken and you might be single forever? Hi, my name is Deb Acker, and in addition to being the host of Truth Talk Radio, I'm an intuitive life coach and energy healer. I clear energy blocks to all areas of life, including love. Did you know that many times the thing that keeps us attracting the same type of person is energy related? What if you could complete this pattern for good to attract conscious, loving men? Don't think it's possible? Several years ago, this is where I was, and I went on a journey to figure out how to undo this for myself, and I now help others with this. I love helping clients clear this pattern for good to have the love they so desire and deserve. If this resonates for you and you're ready to be truly done attracting the same type of person, I'd love to gift you with my pattern identification session. Simply contact me on the contact page of my website, DeborahAcker.com. That's DeborahAcker.com. And let me know you heard about this gift through Transformation Talk Radio. I look forward to connecting soon.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Becoming a Sun Radio with David Karchere and me, and I'm Dr. Pat. We are talking about what does this mean? What does this mean to, allow, to open, to ignite the rays of enlightened thought as well? And, we're looking at what are the rays of enlightened thought, and how important is that when you think of the sun and you think of the brilliance of it, David, right? Clearly there are rays that are shining that, many of us have been out in the sun, we bask in it, but we do not think about this in terms of something that is within us. You're really helping us create a new narrative, and I am just so interested in how we can talk to ourselves differently, how we can think about life differently.
Yes. We need to, I think, because if we're honest, most of us get in trouble with our minds, meaning that we start to think about something and we just won't let it go. And we chew it over like a dog with a bone. And it worries us, it bothers us. And then we get involved emotionally, of course. And so we're using our mind in a way that it's not really meant to be used. And I understand that our mind has the ability to think through problems in the practical world, and that's all well and good. And it has the ability to kind of engineer things in our life, and that's needed. But there's also another quality of the mind that is so necessary in our life, and that is the ability to open up to possibility, to be able to think about not only what's already manifested in our life, the people and things and so on, but to open up to possibility, what could manifest, what's present in some kind of quantum reality, in some realm of potentiality that is yet to manifest. And so when we learn to use our minds in that way, we're opening our minds to what I would call the spiritual realm. And by that, I don't mean something kind of weird or even religious. I mean, it's opening to a realm of being that is yet to manifest, but yet is very real, because it contains the essence of something that could be born, but has yet to be born. And yet it takes us to open to it and believe in it, to think about it, so that it can take shape in the mind, take shape in consciousness, and then begin to manifest in our world. Now, that kind of creeps some people out because they're thinking about something and beginning to believe in something that they can't see yet. But they could begin to see it physically if they stayed with what they're beginning to entertain in consciousness long enough so that it could begin to manifest. But if you don't stay with it and entertain it and live into it, it never will. So this is really what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the rays of enlightened thought. It's opening up to that thought and then letting that thought that is inspired from a place of possibility direct your life.
I want to talk to you about the world of possibilities for a moment. And the reason I do is because we know that when the sun comes out, when the sun hits the land, when the sun hits the trees, the world of possibilities, just the fact that, what the sun activates causes enormous spurts of growth, things to grow. Is that what you're saying about the sun within too? Because some of us have had to grow into who we're becoming and still do every day. But you're talking about, using these rays and these rays of enlightened thought to, I think, accelerate the process, so to speak. Is that possible?
It is absolutely possible. I met a man, Zach Stein, recently who said this. He said, "We are not who we have been, and we are not yet who we are to become." But what does that leave? It leaves us present here now with the opportunity to expose our minds to the possible, and to actually ultimately train our minds to tune into the possible. For instance, if you're working with people over in a brainstorming session, let's say there's some project you're working on. If you are in that brainstorming session and then somebody pipes up, "Oh, but we don't have enough money," or "Oh, there's not enough people," or "Oh, there's not enough time," you'll find that very quickly the power and the inspiration of that brainstorming just goes. Like, enlightened thought can't happen if we cut it off by believing in impossibility, and we trump possibility with practicality before it's even had a chance to get going. So I say there's something in the present to live into and to train our minds to open up to. It's a matter of some discipline of mind so that we can have those great rays of enlightened thought, so that we can, as you were saying, open up to the power of the sun to make things grow. Well, now we're talking about things growing in our mind, and that's really important. Now, they need to grow in our lives too, but how is it going to grow in our lives if it never grows in our mind?
Yeah. And clearly one of the things we do know is that if we put other things in our mind, those things will grow too. And they may not be things in life that we truly, really want. They may not be the things in life that we're really calling to the forefront to help us, right, David?
Well, that's absolutely true. I was thinking earlier as we were speaking, I was thinking about Sunrise Ranch, and I realized here how many failures I've had. Failures with people, failures with projects, all these things that have kind of fallen by the wayside.
Yeah.
And yet, here we are, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful, and something great is manifesting. And I do think that for us as human beings, we have to walk through all the little deaths in our life and not become fixated on them, to notice them, to do something about them, but to keep moving, because if we become fascinated and then obsessed with what's not working, we're never going to experience the victory of what's meant to bring happiness and fulfillment in our life.
Well, let's talk about what it is that happens when we do, if we could. Let's talk about what happens when we do have this level of enlightenment come to the forefront, when we do receive it. What is the impact, David? What can happen in the world?
Well, the first thing that happens is we get happy.
Yeah.
So it's so much fun to think about what could be. And it puts a smile on your face if you're daring enough to believe that something wonderful could happen through you and in your life. So that's the first thing. But then, not everything that comes into my head manifests in my world, and certainly not immediately. There's all kinds of possibilities, and you might say all kinds of alternate realities that enter my mind. And ultimately, some piece of that condenses, if you will, or just ends up manifesting in the world around me.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens with my deliberate application, but it never happens exactly as I think it's going to.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, it ends up being more wonderful than I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're being a sun and we're living that reality, thinking enlightened rays of thought, we end up having the gravity of the sun, which is another quality of the sun. And that gravity of who we're becoming, the gravity of a person who knows and believes in the mission in their life, that's attracting to that person everything that they truly need to live a happy and fulfilling life, everything that they need to create. And so that I know that's happened in my own individual experience and collectively with others. And I believe profoundly that that is how we're meant to function as humanity, that there would be plenty, there would be abundance if we lived in rays of enlightened thought, plenty for us in the world and for humanity. Right now, that's imagination, but that's an enlightened thought about the world we live in that I'm happy to hold, so that the reality of that over time can actually manifest.
We're going to take a short break, because what we're talking about here, David, is truly manifesting in the world what we want manifested in the world, and knowing that we have an impact and a say on how life shows up. You were talking about the spiritual and mental, capacities we have and how powerful these are, the divine wisdom and intelligence, and of course, imagination. When we come back, David's got something very special, an experience he's going to share with us and take us on a journey. Does the world create consciousness, or consciousness create the world? Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Do you ever feel as if you're working twice as hard but only getting half as far? Are you trying to connect with your path in life and finding it elusive? Mainstream Metaphysics Radio is a weekly call-in show where we harness our connection with the universe and use what is in our power to affect change for optimal success and happiness. This hit show bridges the divide between what is and what we do not know. Eve, named one of the country's top psychics, also known as the MBA Psychic, invites you on this journey for this live call-in show with readings, featured guests, leaders, and visionaries in both business and spiritual callings. So join Eve Thursdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com as she takes metaphysics mainstream. For more information about Eve, visit EliteTarot.com. That's EliteTarot.com.
Do you know how to achieve wellness in all areas of your life? Hi, I'm Mary Jane Mack. Signs of wellness are a capacity to love and ability to nurture, a sense of purpose, a good sense of humor and plenty of fun in your life, a concern for others and a respect for the environment, a conscious commitment to personal excellence, a sense of balance and integrated lifestyle, and capacity to cope with whatever life presents. Well people enjoy their lives and want them to last as long as possible. That's why the wellness mindset usually accompanies other constructive, healthy lifestyle habits. By adopting a wellness mindset and behaviors like eating well, taking the right nutrition for the body, exercising, and saying affirmations are just a few things to structure a healthy system of values and beliefs. I will be your wellness coach to help you achieve a wellness lifestyle. Call us at 888-777-4232. That's 888-777-4232. And visit us at MaryJaneMack.com.
Hey listeners, would you love to have the most imaginable relationships ever? David Karchere has just finished his breakthrough book, The 7 Spiritual Strategies for Fulfilling Relationships, and he is giving you a copy. Learn to move any important relationship in your life forward like never before. Visit davidkarchere.com/blessing or transformationtalkradio.com to receive this incredible gift. Once again, that's davidkarchere.com/blessing.
How would you like to release your stress and let go of your anxiety, fear, depression, or even physical pain? How would you like to feel more relaxed, more confident, and experience more success in all areas of your life? Dave Dodge from Stress Buster Radio has a number of cutting-edge methods that will help you do just that. For more information on how Dave can help you release stress, visit StressBusterRadio.com. Skype and phone sessions available.
Hey everyone, welcome back. For more information about David, go to his website, davidkarchere.com, and it's David, Karchere.com. If you missed any part of this, certainly you'll be able to listen to it again tonight, but also you can go to transformationtalkradio.com and go ahead and download the show. You can sign up for the podcast on iTunes, on YouTube, on Spreaker, and about 87 other outlets that you're probably listening to already. David, thank you for today. The question before the break is, does the world create consciousness or consciousness create the world? That is a fascinating question, isn't it? I bet there are differences of opinions.
Yes, really. So, probably we would say it goes both ways, but usually we start out by believing that our consciousness, what we're aware of, what we're thinking of, is being created by what's happening to us from the world around us. And it seems so obvious. If I look at the room where I'm sitting, it's filling my head, if you will, with the images of what's around me. And the problem with that is that if that's the only thing that's happening in our life experience, we begin to see ourselves as a victim of circumstance, a victim of what other people are doing or saying. And we underestimate our own creative power, the degree to which we are actually creating what's manifesting in our life. And so what I want to invite the listeners to begin to think about and entertain is the possibility that the world that they're living in is being created by them. Now, that's a real flip, and it can be a bitter pill to swallow, because if you don't like what's happening in your life, to think that, I'm creating that, I would like to believe that, no, I had nothing to do with it. Other people are doing it to me, and they're just being awful maybe. But I think we've all witnessed others who are bringing upon themselves the life experience they're having and not realizing that they're doing it, and then blaming it on everybody else and seeing themselves as a victim of all that. So we could entertain the possibility that there are ways that we're creating a life experience that we're unconscious of, and that if we got conscious of how we're creating it, we could create differently. We could create a different life experience. And it doesn't mean that all of a sudden all the people in our life are going to do and say what we think they ought to. It just means that we're using the power of thought to birth something new into our world, and we're taking responsibility for how our thought is affecting what's happening. And of course, we know that this is true from the standpoint of quantum science, quantum mechanics. So this is not just illusion. Scientists have measured how the witness to an event changes the event.
Yeah. And, this is something that is so important, not just in the world we live in today, but it's important for us to go through the process. Now, I know that you've created an experience for all of us to participate in today. Tell us a little bit about it, and then let's go do it.
Okay. Yeah, good. So, I imagine that many of our listeners have had the experience of driving down the road, and they have the experience that they're moving through space and time. They're traveling over the road. But I bet many of us have had the experience of going on a long car ride and driving, and then all of a sudden had a shift in experience to where, I'm not moving. The world is flying past me while I'm staying still. So I just invite us all into that experience that we're just present as ourselves. And now, if we think of the world around us, and for me, I'm going to start even with this radio show. And I invite you and our listeners to do the same. So in some way, Pat, you came into my life.
Yeah.
You know, and your listeners have come into my life. And I'm going to, for a moment, believe that I've drawn you here, that I've created you out of the substance of my consciousness and my creative power as a human being. And I want to invite all our listeners to live into that same experience, to suspend their disbelief about it for a moment, knowing that you can go back to an old way of thinking about things, and just imagine the possibility that you called this radio show into your life, that you called Dr. Pat into your life, that you called me into your life. And you did it because it served your own happiness and fulfillment, your own creatorship. You have that power to call into being all the things that are presently around you, even the things that you may not be quite sure what to do with. But just like that person who's driving in their car and realizes that they're just being still, the world is going past them. If you are willing to just be present, realizing that whatever is transpiring in your life now, you called it into your life. It's not going to be there forever. And what needs to come closer to you and play a deeper and richer part in your life, you can welcome to come in. Please come. And whatever doesn't belong, that is in conflict with your own fulfillment and creativity, you don't have to make sure it goes. Just by being yourself, you are creating the reality that you need. You are attracting what needs to be with you, and you are repelling whatever it is that doesn't resonate with the creative field that you're manifesting through consciousness. Now, that may seem fantastic, and yet my experience is that it's true. And not only is it true, but it works. In other words, over time, as I am willing to simply be present as myself, to live in enlightened rays of thought, then my world changes on that basis that I described. I'm attracting to me what needs to be attracted, and I'm repelling what doesn't need to be present with me. And that leads to great creativity if I'm not holding on to what's looking to leave, and if I'm not chasing after things that I think need to be here but don't really. If I'm just present as myself in the power of my creatorship, I am drawing what needs to come. I'm repelling what needs to go. And I'm creating something right here in this present moment that is beautiful, that is a beautiful life experience, and is becoming something greater than it is now into the future.
David, this is truly your mission and your calling. And it is such an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show. And I know people will be able to find out more about your book and about the things you're doing. If you could, just give us a sneak peek at what's to come. I know you're preparing so many things, and I can't believe the hour has gone by so quickly.
Yes. Well, all kinds of things. Here at Sunrise Ranch, we're just about ready to launch a 6-month program that we call Full Self-Emergence, that's based on the principles of becoming a sun. As I mentioned earlier, we're hosting Barbara Marx Hubbard and the planetary mission, so we're making connections at the UN with people around the globe. Barbara's launching an Evolutionary Woman program. So there's all that going on. We're launching a series of courses on primal spirituality this year, a whole new series of courses. That's so exciting. And then in the autumn, I'm doing a sacred tour of sites associated with the King Arthur legend in England. And I'm so excited about doing that. So just so much going on.
It is exciting. It is your calling. David Karchere, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Becoming a Sun Radio. We've got lots more coming. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to Becoming a Sun Radio, emotional and spiritual intelligence for a happy, fulfilling life with David Karchere. Tune in monthly on the Dr. Pat Show Network for this life-changing show. David brings the knowledge about primal and embodied spirituality to the forefront. You can learn more about David and his spirituality programs at davidkarchere.com. That's David, Karchere.com. See you there.